Hi, welcome to Sefaria's training course for educators. I'm Sarah Wachenfeld, Sefaria's Director of Education. In this session, you'll learn how to create an account and establish a presence on Sefaria. You'll get a brief tour of the site and discover how to use our textual connections to find new sources and move from one text to another. Finally, you'll learn how to complete an assignment on Sefaria so that you can submit what you create. To get started, please make sure that you're logged into Sefaria. When you're logged in, you'll see this small icon in the upper right-hand corner of the screen. Click on your icon, and your account page will appear. Let's start by creating a profile so that you can be a part of the Sefaria community. Here's my profile, and I encourage you to share as much information as possible. Put in a profile picture, some information about you, and even contact information or a school website, so that people who are inspired by what you create on the site can find out more about you and get in touch. Creating a community of educators is important to Sefaria. We want you to be able to share materials and to discover and learn from materials that are created by others as well. More on that in a later lesson. Now let's look at Sefaria's database. Wherever you are on Sefaria, you can always find the library by clicking on the three lines in the upper left-hand corner of the screen. Your library page will look a little different than mine because Sefaria also records the most recent text that you've been viewing. But if you scroll down a little bit, under the word Browse, you'll see our full library. Sefaria intends to house 95% of the texts that 95% of the people study 95% of the time, and we're constantly adding texts. Later on in the course, we'll talk about how to request texts and translations if Sefaria doesn't have everything that you need. For now, look through our categories, which you can see all of by clicking on the word More. You can always toggle between languages on this page by clicking on the Aleph or the A, depending on which language you start in. Go ahead and explore our library and experiment by opening up some of the text that you teach. For example, I teach Sefer Shemot, the book of Exodus, so I'm going to open up to a section of that text, and I'll do that by clicking on the word Tanakh, which opens up to all the books of Tanakh, and then I'll click on Exodus, which will open up the book of Exodus. In this case, Sefaria opened up the first chapter because that's what I was reading most recently. If I want to navigate to a different chapter, in addition to scrolling, I can click on this small arrow at the top of the screen, and Sefaria will take me to the table of contents for that text. As you can see, there's some information about the text, information about the version that I'm using, and different ways of viewing the table of contents. At the bottom, you also have more version information and the ability to download a version of the text onto your computer if you'd like to. I'm going to select Chapter 20, and I'm going to go into the Hebrew-English mode for this text. This panel at the top, when you click on the Aleph A, will give you the option for font size, for the layout, for which languages, and for vocalization. So now that I've located the text that I want to use, I can do research, or encourage my students to do so, by clicking on the verse that I'm interested in. In this case, I'm going to scroll down till I get to the commandment about keeping Shabbat. Remember the Sabbath day and keep it holy. And I'm going to do research on this verse. Click on the verse, and the side panel opens up on the right. Depending on your facility with text or your students' text skills, they or you may not be able to read and understand everything here. That's fine. Think of this experience as similar to Googling an idea. Not all the results are useful to you, but some are. As a teacher, you can help guide your students towards the sources that will help them, and also orient them to the idea that the texts that they look at are part of a larger universe of sources, which they may choose to explore at another time. I've opened commentaries and related sources on this verse, and I think I'll choose to open up commentary and select Rashi. Rashi's commentary will then open in this right-hand panel. If I'd like to know more about this Rashi, if I'd like to deepen my research and go further, I can click on the Rashi itself to open it in full. And when I click on that text, a third panel opens with the connections to the Rashi. And so on and so forth. I can continue to click and to get one text after another that's connected to the previous text. Sefaria will keep showing me new sources as long as I keep clicking. And again, the language controls remain in this corner, so you can always choose to see the text in whichever language you choose. And you can close these panels simply by Xing out of them. The rest of this lesson will take you through some of the different ways of finding texts and pursuing connections on Sefaria. Enjoy, and be sure to reach out if you have any questions. Contact information is at the top of the sheet, and we always welcome your feedback.